Hey everybody, it's Bust with Expedition Trial number 497 inside the final four before we make our way to Expedition Trial number 500. And so we'll keep the sports talk to limited. If you're not familiar with the American sports, the Final Four and the college basketball tournament are a big thing going on during March. They call it the March Madness throughout the entire month. I don't follow it. It's just there's only so much you can follow in terms of sports and keeping up with it, and I just stick with the old football. And so we'll leave any anecdotes there aside. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and jump into this trial. We're going to be drafting Ziggs today. I've been having quite a bit of fun drafting or playing Ziggs in Constructed. We've been playing quite a bit of Talia Ziggs over there. We'll see if any of those concepts make their way into our draft here today. And so let's go ahead and get the Ziggs pulled up on the site. I do like this Landmark Destruction archetype. It pairs off with Zerath, I think. Yeah, it pairs off with Zerath, but you don't necessarily have to chase down the landmarks, right? So whenever we're looking at like landmark specific decks, the things that we're looking to do and to piece together are units that generate landmarks. We're going to find things like this in Inventive Chemist. Over on the Shurima side, you would find this out of something like Rockhopper. We're looking for spells that generate landmarks. That would be out of Shurima, like the 3-cost spell that puts the 2 Roiling Sands on the board, or you want landmarks that replace themselves, and that would be something along the lines of the Preservarium. And so, if we are going to chase after that thing, we're going to place like a really heavy emphasis on Inventive Chemist, place heavy emphasis on Bomber Twins. Both of these generate the landmarks, and that's what we'll use to start fueling up our Ziggs. Now, we don't necessarily have to do that. This is a really strong archetype in terms of early game aggression. The Inventive Chemist, Bomber Twins into Arena Kingpin is just a really strong set of early game plays. This is a fairly small archetype, so you can find them relatively easily. And then Hexplosive Minefield really comes out and abuses decks that are trying to go tall. And so you can assemble these curves to where you just spend all of your mana in the early game. Maybe your opponent stumbles across a turn or two, and then once we get to like turn 5, we might have a full board, and an opponent spends all 5 of their mana on one unit. We just get to shut it down for the turn with the Hexplosive Minefield. And so those are the kind of things that we'll be looking for. If we're in like the Landmark Destruction with Shurima, that's okay. If we're in Noxus for some kind of aggression, that's okay. If we're in Bandle City for some kind of like go wide Poppy style deck or Tristana multi-faction style deck, it's all okay, all well and good. We can, really take advantage of a Yordles in Arms here. This is a really kind of flexible and open archetype because it has so much power in the beginning. But it does have its weaknesses. It's not like the LeBlanc archetype we had yesterday, where it has good early game, good mid game, good late game, good interactivity. This one has good early game. You could make an argument to say it has good mid game if that's what you want to call Arena Kingpin. But there's no late game here. There's just non-existent. There is the Arsenal, but that's an epic. You can't really count on it. Safety Inspector is about as good as it gets. He's a reasonably sized body, and he does generate some interactivity, but he takes some work and doesn't have Overwhelm. And so it's not nearly as easy as just like plopping down an Armored Elephant. And then the interactivity here isn't good. Like Explosive Minefield is fine. If we're doing Landmark Destruction, Bouncing Bomb is okay, but these aren't like really high powered removal spells like, Pokey Sticks or Whirling Deaths and the like. These are all very mediocre style cards. And so we're going to have to find some synergies to use with this archetype to help make it work out here. Pothead's in the archetype now as well. This is one of the new additions out of the new cards that we don't have tracked with what we have going on. Okay, and so what are we going to do here? A couple of interesting options. I don't think I'm particularly interested in Caitlyn. There's just not enough synergies between the two. I find that whenever we look to draft Caitlyn, we're just trying to draft a deck focused and centered on her and on the 2/1 elusive unit that generates the flashbangs. And that's just not going to really provide any synergies with what we're doing here with Ziggs. And so it does give us two options otherwise. The Tarek is kind of interesting. It does solve some of our problems in him being a pretty good late game play. There's some decent late game stuff in Targon and the Invokes, and it might give us a good, early start with the likes of Mountain Goat here. But it doesn't seem like ultra strong to me. I think I'm going to come over here and take this Ascension Azir. And so Azir can be okay in this kind of archetype. He sort of feels aggressive sometimes if you're able to get the Sand Soldiers going. But the big thing we're looking for this Azir is it's putting us into Shurima, where we can find the other landmark cards, and then it gives us an Esteemed Hierophant, which we probably won't find the Sun Disk. If we do see it, we won't take it because we have Bandle City here. But a 3/4 for 3 is pretty good stat-wise, and that helps us with a lot of our problems in terms of finding good vulnerable attacks. And so, happily enough, add in the Hierophant. Now, the problem with this Azir archetype is this is just kind of like a pure supporting kind of pool. Like, it's effing gigantic. Tons and tons of cards in here, because this is just trying to basically support everything in Shurima. And so, if you want to find the Sand Soldiers cards, because you're playing Azir, they live here, right? Here's like the Desert's Wrath and the Dune Keeper and the like. If you want to find some of the hey, I'm playing the Ascension archetype. Let's, draw some champions. And you can hit the Golden Ambassador. It also had that Esteemed Hierophant if you're playing towards the Ascension. If you're playing towards Predict, there's some cards here. If you're playing towards Landmarks, there's some cards here. It has a little bit of everything. It just doesn't do anything particularly well. And so, lots of cards that we'll be reasonably happy to add into an aggressively based Landmark style deck. Chronomancer's good in everything. Where you at? Rockhopper is one of our big core build-around units. Ruin Runner is a great late-game closer. We use the Absolver extensively in Constructed to help Ziggs punch through damage. Like, there's lots of cards here that are good, but it's not unreasonable to think that, like, oh, wow, I'm out here looking for, Rockhoppers and Ruin Runners, and then every common we see out of this archetype just isn't that. Right, as we looked at that Ziggs archetype, there was like 6 commons. If we see this one that looks like there's maybe like 12 or 15 or so, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And so just much lower chance of actually finding the cards that we want. But at least this isn't a completely dead archetype, right? If we would have found, I don't know, not to say that like Nasus would be completely terrible, but the kind it would be a little bit more off theme. There aren't nearly as many cards that we're looking for in there, and so I think this will be okay. The Azir and the Dune Keeper aren't that great, but I think we should be able to find ourselves in a pretty strong landmarks-based deck here. And so coming out of this, I want the Bomber Twins with the Shaped Stone. Both of these are incredibly powerful. Shaped Stone, just a really premier combat trick. The Bomber Twins being a landmark generator for us. All looks pretty good to me. All right, which one are you saying, Seer? When I'm summoned to draw 1, if you do a landmark, repeat. That's okay. She does have Fearsome, but I would prefer to have Overwhelm on a mid-game play like this. But also comes along with the Unraveled Earth. This is one of the more premier ways to get the landmarks on the board, and I think this is what we're going to go with. We are passing on a Rockhopper, but we have an epic and a rare here. These are going to be a little bit more challenging to find as opposed to the common and Rockhopper. So we'll go with that package there. Here, I love these Endless Devouts. This is, we're not going to be able to take full advantage of this like we would with the Talia deck. We're never going to be able to copy the Sarcophagus and just get tons of units, but this is a really powerful mid-game play that we would love to just have multiple copies of. Okay, getting pretty heavy into the Shurima here. And with this, another interesting set. We do have a mediocre landmark in Inner Sanctum, but it comes with a really high-powered spell in Siphoning Strike, while over here we have the Naturalist and the Vacaran Vagabond. The Naturalist is quite strong in these decks, right? It lets us just sacrifice off these landmarks that we don't want, or it lets us level our Ziggs quicker, get the big unit. Quite powerful. This is, I guess we're looking at a rare both ways. It's just like the thing I'm getting worried about at this point is we're just not going to have any interactivity. And so I'm going to pick up the Siphoning Strike out of this one. I'm not convinced this is the pick because the Naturalist is quite strong. The Vagabond does generate a landmark, but I'm going to go with the removal spell out of this one just to make sure that we have one. Coming in here, I would love these Naturalists, but the Ricochet is just too bad. This is just going to be a Hothead plus a Minefield. The Hothead's not terrible. He plays reasonably well with Ziggs. And here, we didn't talk about the Wastewalker combos because I didn't pull up the Zerath archetype, but one of the most powerful curves we can have is to play a Rockhopper on turn 2. That puts the Roiling Sands on the board, and then we play the Wastewalker on turn 3. And so our opponent if we're on the odd attacks, they have to make the decision to, do I want to just take 6 damage, or do I want to play a unit into the vulnerable, make the Waste Walker a 4/4, and probably just be losing the unit. This gives us a lot of incredibly powerful curves. We don't have any Rock Hoppers. We passed on the only one that we saw, but that's a powerful thing to be on the lookout for. Man, so many ancient hourglasses. I don't want these. Get this out of here. And so, how are we going to handle this one though? I think I'm going to take the hourglass and the naturalist. This one's close. These chemists are so good. Like the thing that we're really hurting on now is our curve looks horrible. Right? We have 10 3-drops out of 18 cards, so 20 cards, and so literally half of our deck is a 3-drop. Now it could be worse, right? We could have half of our deck be like 4 drops or 5 drops or something, but it's a little bit awkward. Here, I think we need to go with the Rock Hopper, though. I really want to get these combos. The Spirit Fire gives us some good interactivity. I feel like we're going to kind of maybe feel bad about not picking up all of the naturalists, but at the end of the day, I think it'll probably be okay. And here, I'm pretty interested in this Voice of the Risen. I don't expect too much out of Clockwork Curator. We tend to not really be dropping the counts on our landmarks, but it has its places, right? This can be used in a deck like this, but it's typically fairly easy to flip a Ziggs. And so if we're able to have this like really early game aggressive curve, which we're kind of far away from, but that's still something to keep in mind. And then we have the Voice of the Risen boosting everything because Ziggs is easy to flip. I think that sounds quite powerful. Okay, pretty weak set here. I don't like playing the Obelisk of Power, right? At least like the Hexplosive Minefield lets us interact, but, as we talked about the units that generate landmarks like the Bomber Twins, the spells that generate them like, where'd you go, Unraveled Earth, or then the landmarks that replace themselves like Preservarium. Obelisk doesn't do that, right? It just gives some stats in a place you may or may not want it. But like, we don't want these Sand Soldier cards. We don't want Ricochet. Payday's pretty bad, and so we're just kind of stuck with it here. Okay. Interesting set. And so I think kind of like objectively, the Bomber Twins is what we want the most. We need to fill in this 1 and 2-drop space. We're really hurting in terms of those units, but we do have kind of like this Waste Walker plus removal spell package here in Rite of the Arcane. And it's pretty tough. Like Mega Inferno Bomb, not really what we need. We have a card pretty similar to it already in the Spirit Fire, but it's like the bottom part of our curve. I'm just afraid we're not going to be able to fill it out. I'm going to go with the interactivity here, kind of like for the same reason we went out of our way to take the Siphoning Strike. We probably need to go a little bit out of our way to pick a card like Rite of the Arcane, just to ensure we have some interactivity, but really hurting that we missed on some of these Bomber Twin style cards. Okay, and here I'll go with the Devout and the Naturalist. It's a big value package for us. I see the Herald of the Magus down here to the right. This is another one that can be quite useful, like in the same vein as Voice of the Risen being pretty easy to use. Herald of the Magus is quite strong in giving our Ziggs overwhelm, but I want this Naturalist, I want this Endless Devout. This is going to really make our deck a little bit less high-rolly. All right, here, Wastewalker Shapestone, pretty easy. The possibilities are terrible. Don't need these Otterpuss-based cards. And then with this last one, I'm just going to get the Dunekeeper out of our deck. I don't like cards like Saltspire, but the Dunekeeper is a pretty dead card here. Like, I would love to pick up a Safety Inspector. I'd love to pick up Scrying Sands, but the Dunekeeper just doesn't do anything. And I think this should also help us with our trade picks here in the future and really kind of drill home to the algorithm that we're playing landmarks and not playing anything to do with Sand Soldiers. But before we get too far along, we do have to go and turn something premium. Pay to win is the way we do it here. We've got to pay for the pay to win lifestyle. Let's see what's out here. No common units. Almost done with all of those. We do have a bouncing bomb, but I want to go and check the landmarks as well. That might be something that we have. Ooh, the Obelisk of Power. we can turn premium the card that we're going to be removing. That's tempting. But we'll go with the bouncing bomb here. This one might actually, at least get to put the little circle on the board. Might see some play. We're not going to trade it out of our deck, most likely. It has a nice home here. So yeah, March Madness in the Final Four. If you're American, there's a good chance that your work has a work league or a pool where you try to pick the winners and of the NCAA tournament. I've taken the strategy of just picking an alphabetical order, right? The this is like a little bit of gamesmanship as we run into these things. They always want to do some kind of team building and shit at work, and this is a way to do it. They always pass out some kind of prizes, and sometimes they'll pass out a prize for last place. Now, I feel like kind of bad just shooting for the last place prize. Like it's pretty apparent and obvious that you're gaming the system when you just pick the brackets in opposite order. So everyone is ranked. If you just picked the lower ranked team to beat the higher ranked team every time, then you're probably going to be right on path to getting last place. But I'm not out here playing competitive NCAA bracket with the people at work. I couldn't give two shits about that kind of thing. But it is, much easier to get last place than first, right? There's going to be a lot of tryhards out there trying their hardest to get last place. And we're not doing that. But, I do concede that it is easier to get last place. And so that's what I try to do. And I just pick my bracket in alphabetical order. And so it's like you do have some amount of, plausible deniability that you weren't just tanking for the last place prize. You were just playing a, interesting strategy, if you will. And it's paid off the past 3 years in a row. And so I've won last place the past 2 years, and then this year I'm primed and ready to win last place again. And so it feels pretty good to go in there and get the big prizes. I mean, it's not as big as getting a first place prize, but much easier to acquire. I'm sure the expected value on the last place prize is much higher than on the first one. But all right, back to the Runeterra action here. Not too much that's been going on in this game. This is kind of a tempting ancient hourglass. If we get to save the unit, bring it back with the landmark thing that gets our Ziggs kind of close to flipping, I think I'm on board with this. We could have just shaped stone out of it, but I kind of like the idea of playing the hourglass here. We'll get the unit back. We can bouncing bomb down two of his units if we want. May have to watch ourselves just a little bit in terms of this Callista, but gives us a fairly powerful board here. Right, here's landmark number 1. He's immediately going to come back. We'll get get a fresh Roiling Sands. We should probably just do this, right? If we want to destroy a landmark, hit Callista. Should be pretty tough for opponent to play out of. Okay. So we don't get the vulnerable this way, but even better. We just get the concession. Boom it. All right. Oh, that's Azir's voice line. I thought that we were given a Xerath voice line. He's not even in our deck. But all right, here's the Ziggs. Good luck to pick up Xeraths, but this is a pretty bad collection of cards. Unleashed Energy's fine, but like we don't have the Absolvers, we don't have the Overwhelm combos to really make the big punishing plays with this. And we have a Bomber Twins down here with the Ziggs, and so looks like a pretty safe take to me. And I'm curious if there's anything attached to that Ascension archetype, or if it's just kind of random. Where there was the Preservationist in there, the countdown card, and so would have been an option. We aren't in the countdown Rock Bear type strategy, but it was there. We got here Xerath, Echo, Zillion, but then they also have Freylord. I wonder how much. I wonder how much Frozen Thralls we're going to see coming out of this. That's what it kind of looks like to me. Could be a Frozen Thrall deck. Oh, bring it. Just starting with the Sun Disc, huh? That must feel terrible. And so, if you're not familiar with how this works, there's the Magus Ascendant Xerath. This is a single Shurima only faction that always starts with the Sun Disc, but you aren't guaranteed a Shurima champion in the second pack, and so you can kind of run into this space to where you have to find a Shurima champion to make the Sun Disc work, but then if you don't find it, you're just stuck with this shitty card in your deck the whole trial. And that's what opponent has had happen here. But as far as this game's concerned, I'm trying to build up to using Ancient Hourglass plus Hothead to try and boost up our champions on top, and just get some of these like landmarks going for our Wastewalker. We're not in like a huge hurry here. We need some time for our engines to start building. Much power here. Getting ready to pop off. So we'll start with the Unraveled Earth. I want to get the Hothead on board. I'm kind of interested in attacking with the Hothead, and then just throwing down the Ancient Hourglass gets him out of the way fairly quickly, and ready to attack again the next turn. But I think we're okay just to take this damage and stick to that plan. All the Hotheads. But right now they're in kind of an awkward position to where if they want to play units, it's going to grow our Wastewalker. You need to play a unit bigger than Wastewalker if you want it to survive the combat. And then otherwise you're just going to get boomed if you don't. So the unfortunate thing for us here is we don't have like wins in these combats. We just have trades because everyone here is so weak at the moment. That's what we're hoping to turn around fairly quickly. It's a little annoying. I think we can just continue to pass. Maybe we should attack with the Hothead here, but I think if he overbanks 3 mana, that might be a win for us. I don't know. This is all around pretty awkward. It's like we just took the damage last turn because we wanted to attack. Now we can't attack. Maybe we'll get a Hothead attack in or something. So all right, fine. I think we'll still attack. Well, the Hothead's going to just get stunned now, right? That's okay. We do lose out on the +1/+1 from the Ancient Hourglass, but it's not terrible. I think I'm kind of like valuing these bonuses a little bit too high with the Hotheads, right? It's just going to give like a Ziggs a little bit of stats. It's not like game breaking. Oh, we don't miss it on the +1. Nice. Lots of power out of the Naturalist now. Pretty cool with that. We'll have to see. I'm not. It's like an easy one here to just like slam the Naturalist on onto a royal or an Unraveled Earth, but we might want to save it for the Minefield. It's like it's pretty tough to boom him from 20, right? If opponent was at like 12, it would be pretty reasonable to set up this play where it's like on our attack token, we play a Minefield, we blow it up with the Naturalist, we stun 2 of their units, and then have a bunch of shit on board to attack with. But I mean, maybe that's what we aim for here. I mean, opponent still has some time to do things, but maybe we aim to like play Azir and play the Inner Sanctum, and then we can look to maybe get a protective style thing onto a Hothead. Maybe we can chunk in some damage next turn, and then try to get the kill 2 attack tokens from now. He is really intent on never playing a unit. Spirit Fire. Oh, fuck. Really? We don't have ways to boost our Waste Walker. Alright. Oh, that's brutal. Alright, well, I think we'll probably just have to go big this turn. Give up on the explosive minefield kind of plan. We're pretty far ahead, or pretty far behind on board if we don't start to do something this turn. Yeah. That feels really greedy.
And I thought there was something good to
Okay.
see.
Not a horrible space. We can hopefully get something out of the lucky finds here. Get a good combat. Like if we hit Challenger on our 5-4 and get to take down his unit, we're getting pretty far ahead on board. We have a Preservarium for the next turn. So we can do some interesting stuff. Alright, quick attack for the first one. Challenger, nice. Should have perhaps taken Overwhelm, but it wouldn't have felt as good just like leaving that unit so vulnerable on the board. Right? Seems like we're reasonably far ahead. I mean, this Azir is getting pretty close to flipping. Opponent's not really doing anything out here, but we also don't have a lot of good like late game plays, so can be slightly awkward. Nice. I usually don't feel too good about hitting things like the Rock Bear, but we have this Curator ready to go in hand.
If we can undo what has been done,
We can, Timekeeper. Let me show you.
Okay.
Okay, got it. I think maybe.
All right, things are churning. Things are turning. The Azir will flip next turn, but he's not going to be giving anything bonuses. Like we'll get the Rock Bear for one unit. The attack will summon a Sand Soldier that gives us an additional unit, but we'll help him be a little safer. Probably not going to just attack with him into the fort. Well, we can't attack with him into Zillion.
Why not?
destiny calls.
Give it one of these. If we want the Sand Soldier to come down, we have to pull a unit back. So that'll be you. Probably rather it be the Naturalist that gets helped back. So we can... Oh no. Oh, fuck. I just expected the units to go right back to blocking where they were. I wanted the attack to stay in the right order, but I forgot to pull the units back, and, and so it could definitely be worse. But that was a little sloppy, a little sloppy. That's what I was talking about in the previous video. You got to get kind of used to when you're making the contents out here, and you make a not so beautiful play, and you have to either just throw it away or put it out there for the world to observe. And we'll put this one out here for the world to observe.
Listen to me.
Seems like we're still in a pretty reasonable spot, even though we're unfortunately losing our Azir. We take him to 8, have a overwhelmingly powerful board, have this Preservarium in hand for a little bit of card advantage. I think we're fine. They are playing rando like Freylord, so you never know if they're going to be like, Herder, here's Feel the Rush. But, let's see, what's this thing? Is that a... I missed what that thing actually did. Summon a stasis statue to store all allied units, landmarks, and landmarks that died. So he just gets all his units back. Must be nice. Okay, a Spirit Fire of our own. Guess we're gonna be overwriting some stuff. There's definitely a world where he doesn't attack here, so I think we gotta like start putting some stuff down.
Rev that baby up and let's see what it can really do.
Don't worry, boss. It goes to 11.
Echo. I don't think he's predicted enough. He has.
Got a good feeling about tomorrow.
Echo, guess who I cloned?
Better not start with an E and rhyme with gecko.
Okay. I want to stun the Echo. I don't really... It's like we might be able to manage him in combat, but I don't want him getting the free time tricks and catching this right back up. We're at the space to where it's like, we need to end this game now since we messed up that previous turn. And like we have to do it immediately. Now, the question is going into next turn, do we want to kill this Practical Perfectionist, right? We can do 2 damage when the Preservarium pops, then the Perfectionist... Well, we'd only be getting in with 2 units at that point. Okay, but it's like we have 2 from the Preservarium blowing up, 2 from the Ziggs thing, and then the Naturalist actually hitting.
Present and future, all in my hands.
Man, level up that Sun Disk. Okay, so we can immediately get the Rockhopper down. This will, if he wants to play another unit, he's going to take 2 damage from Ziggs. And then we can start to make a decision from there. Looks like he doesn't really want to party. We maybe should be using the Grumpy Rock Bear to try and take down the Echo, but I worry about there just being something like a Brittle Steel to come in and weaken this attack. Second Spirit Fire. Fairly brutal. Alright, so how do we get this done here? The problem that we start to run into now is I don't want Ziggs to take 2 damage, but I want him to get the 2 damage into face. And so I mean, I guess we could attack and then just replay our Ziggs. This does give him an opening to... Well, this is okay, right? If he's going to like play a unit after the fact, it'll still pop the Roiling Sands. So this will take him to 4. Ziggs will die at the end of the turn. Does give him, I guess, the chance to open. And oh, nice. Definitely happy to have his unit just die. He needs to block with the Chronomancer. Yeah, this would have been a little cleaner if we'd used our larger unit to try and do that siphoning strike, but I think this is still okay. Yeah, it's just the big downside here is the Roiling Sands. Like, opponent has the opportunity to open with a unit and get away from this 2 damage. Pretty confident they'll be able to do that. Oh, it's so nice here. Play something dumb, right? Take us to 3. Okay. We should have led with Ziggs. I've punted this game. Guess if he's not going to play units. can't play one now. Well, he can, but he's going to take 2 damage in the process. Time Bomb takes us to 1. Is he going to have another one? I'm not sure how that sequenced out with the Zillion. And Xerath. Okay, so that takes him to 2. I think we're okay. Our weakest enemy, our weakest one is going to be the Waste Walker. And then we get to open attack with Ziggs and do the bouncing bomb thing. And rally, just have it all, I guess. Did that even do anything? I think we still get killed here because this board's so awkward, but it's giving us a shot. So we don't lose either unit. The Xerath still pops the Waste Walker. Well, he's going to be too small next turn. That's the problem, right? He's going to take 2, die to the Time Bomb, and then the Ziggs will get hit with the Xerath. Oh, Xerath is gone, though. Did we still manage to win? Did we do it? Did we do it? Ah. Well, what's this thing? Okay. Sure. Nice. So I guess it was pretty good that we did play around the Brittle Steels, huh? As he comes down and drops 2 Brittle Steels on us at the end of the game. I thought that was one of the potential things to be coming at us, and it worked out there. So that would have been a bit disastrous if we had gone for this. Well, we would have been kind of in the same space, I guess, if we went with the trying to brittle or on that turn where we were siphoning striking and we used our Ziggs to play around Brittle Steel. But here, I would much rather have Sivir than Azir. This is a great game ender that we're looking for. Ideally, now that we've picked up Sivir, we'll be able to find a way to get overwhelms. We haven't talked extensively about it, but if kind of the problem you run into with Ziggs was at that late game there, where he's attacking, our opponent's going to block, and then the bouncing bomb will kill our opposing unit, then he doesn't actually get to deal that 4 damage through. Very much like with Lee Sin, if you have Overwhelm, then he gets to chunk that extra damage through. And so the Sivir loves having Overwhelm because she can give it to the entire team with her flip ability, but Ziggs likes having it as well. And so we have the 1 Inner Sanctum to generate the payday things. The card we'd really be looking for is the Absolver. But we'll see if it turns up. But nonetheless, Sivir really helps with this top end here and where we're hurting. Whew. But man, I can't believe I did that. Well, I can believe I did it. I'm pretty bad about skipping over plays on occasion, but I had it in my head so easily. It's you can't, on that turn where we attacked and didn't hook anything, you just can't pull that unit back from the left and then put something up there to replace it. You have to go and just move all of your units. And so I was we'll just reorder this real quick. I want to keep the damage off of our 2-4. And it just didn't bother to put the challenges back in place. Whoops. Little whoopsies. But turned out okay at the end of the day. Alright, so with this hand, I think we want to keep all of it. Maybe we get rid of the Clockwork Curator, but it seems quite nice with the Endless Devout being able to spew off that unit a little bit quicker. But I think we can get rid of... Let's just get rid of this and the 3-4. I could see us just wanting to find a cheap play. And then not having enough stuff to sacrifice if we have both the right and the countdown thing. So I definitely want the Endless Devout and the interactivity, and then we're just cycling to look for some cheaper units.
I'll be quick.
I'm trying to get the LOR tracker up. Like, it's open. It's turned on. I don't know why this doesn't work all the time. Right, always nice to hit the Preservarium with the Bomber Twins. I'll happily trade either unit with what he has on board.
I'll take everything.
Okay, give me that sarcophagus. That's usually like the challenging factor in playing against these decks is figuring out when you can trade with the Endless Devout, because these sarcophaguses start to be really problematic for you. I was thinking in this case I'd probably just, if I'm gonna make that block there, I probably would have just blocked the Bomber Twins to keep the thing off of the board, but opponent disagrees. Okay, so like this turn, I do want to Rite of the Arcane something, and so if we're gonna do that, like what else are we gonna get on the board? It's probably gonna have to trade with Petty Officer. If we're trading with Petty Officer, I just want to play Endless Devout. I would Hothead's probably not gonna make it far, but it's just very easy for opponent to play a 2-attack unit. Bombs away. Sure. It's like a pretty positive turn. Pretty positive. I'm positive. That was positive. Nailed it. Alright, well, we're going to go for it. This is another space to where a Brittle Steel or a Troll Chant would be pretty abysmal, but I at least think our health total's high enough to where if this goes wrong, then we can still just spew off a bunch of units next turn and be in a probably game-winning spot. And then if this does work, we've just easily won the game. And so I think it's pretty fair. I mean, maybe we should have just flooded the board and it kind of ignored Gangplank since we did have a blocker in place, but I think he was going to be pretty safe most of the time. Okay, so what are we doing with this last one? I'm leaning towards just picking up more Ziggs, but like we already have this mountain of 3-drops, and his flip ability is just not that great, right? Bouncing Bomb is not a spectacular card, and I'm looking towards just picking up the Sivir stack that does have some good top end with it. It's like we're going to get stuck with an Ancient Hourglass either way. We could go like, I would probably rather have the Safety Inspector than Raz. Raz is not particularly strong, but I'm mainly leaning towards just taking the Sivir here. I think that's okay, but man, we are pretty lined up to deal with the landmark destruction. Let's just take the Ziggs. Maybe we can trade away an Ancient Hourglass or two. The Safety Inspector gives us a lot of reach as well. It helps us, like one of the problems you run into, more so in Constructed when you're able to play Talia, is having your board just get clogged up with stuff and you need to empty up a space, but you can't like summon anything. And the Safety Inspector helps in those terms. We don't really have that problem here, but it's kind of interesting having that effect when Talia is a part of the team. League is bad, 28. Like, why even bother? Here, I'm just gonna get rid of everything. We should pretty easily find a 3-drop at this point, and I want to mulligan for a 1 or a 2 as hard as we can. Found a 2. Pretty good chance of finding a 3-drop by turn 3 as well. So, not panning out exactly how we expected, but I think it's okay. Is this The Donger, Draven, and Jinx. Interesting. It's usually like a really aggressive deck with the Draven Jinx. That would be like a scrap heap style deck. They're playing two Heimerdingers. Maybe they just were lacking top end or something. Man, we did just completely whiff. That's not a 3-drop either. You're making me look foolish, game. Alright, there's one. Let's do it this way, though. Let's drop the Unraveled Earth first, so if opponent plays a unit into our Waste Walker, then it's going to get the bonuses. And then if they pass, I'm going to pass. I'm not going to fool with it. Okay. I'd like to get this Waste Walker on the board. He's a little protected now that we have the Ancient Hourglass in hand, but he is also kind of small. Why is this guy... What did he swap with? Oh, with the Assembly Bot, and that's why he shrunk? We can deal with that next turn. Not Waste Walker, we want the Hothead. Okay. It's like I'm eyeballing putting down the Safety Inspector because I want to get a Siphoning Strike going onto the Assembly Bot, but that's going to be fairly slow. And if he has a spell, I think I'm pretty okay with just letting the trade happen. It's 2 spells. Okay, well, let's spin the Hourglass while it does something. Ooh, not Minefield. I want to play the Inner Sanctum. We'll see how this goes. We need to get this this Siphoning Strike done fairly quickly. And like this is our turn to do it with the Waste Walker, and so kind of want to see what they throw down. Right. So let's go with the +2 attack. I don't think we're super interested in Challenger right at this moment. He's just going to be a stat monster out here. He already has Overwhelm. We'll just go with Tough out of this. It's hoping for a Spell Shield. So this should be fairly tough for him to get out of with the Siphoning Strike. Beautiful. And he brings in the Donger. Okay. Alright, Ziggs, do your thing. It'd be cool if you had Overwhelm, but we already spent our payday. Oh, he does have Overwhelm. Where's that come from? Oh, the Hothead gave it to him. Oh, that is sick. It's starting to do a lot of frowned upon things. Takes him to 8, take our Ziggs to 1. What does the Spirit Fire even do? Not a whole lot. Okay. Maybe next turn it'll do something. Is he just building up to a Death Rocket? Is that what we're getting into? Death Ray? I'll give you the protection you need, Ziggs. I think the sequencing is going to happen out of order in terms of the Ziggs coming into play and getting the bonuses. Alright, that should seal the deal. I believe in you, Sivir. You got all the stats one could need.
Honor is the rest on a dull blade.
Sturdy construction. Yeah.
Oh, nice. We did get the 4 damage from Ziggs. Beautiful.
Light the fuse.
Alright, enjoy. What else are you supposed to say about these? Cupcake it. Nice.
Guess who just earned her bonus?
Okay, so what do we got here? I'm still happy with this Voice of the Risen. The hotheads haven't played out as well as I'd want. I think this is a pretty good upgrade with the Desert Naturalist. I want the Ruin Runner, but I feel like the Curator's probably just better than the Hothead in our deck, so I'm going to swap out for the Naturalist here. We've had plenty of targets for these. It's pretty powerful when you're able to get this mountain of 11, or is it 15 stats? 15 stats on turn 4. That's pretty good. 9 plus 6. I think I nailed those mathematics, and so looks pretty good. All right, on to the next one. Okay. I restarted the game. That should have been good enough to get the deck tracker up, right? Apparently not. Maybe if I close it and reopen it, that'll do it. Okay. That's been attempted. But with a hand like this, I think I'm good with the Ziggs and the Unraveled Earth. We're going to do some mulliganing to look for some cheap stuff, but I think these cards are high enough quality to where I don't feel exactly like I do in terms of the previous game where we're just full mulliganing. But so depending on what we draw, we just won't play anything the first 2 turns. Turn 3, we'll open with the Unraveled Earth and then follow with the Waste Walker. Yeah, it's looking like that's what's going to happen. What up, action? Okay, yeah, I'm still on board. Then this is kind of a unfortunate space in that I will, if he just passed, we would have to attack. Shapestone is fine. I don't really want to, he would just be overbanking 1 mana. It's not that big of a deal for him. And so I think this is okay. He's really turbocharged leveling this action. This is a turn 4 flip. That's pretty good.
Did somebody say explosives?
Curious if he ever goes for the +1/+0 so that he can get a decent attack in here. I'm not opposed to trading for the Vagabond if he goes for the +1/+0. We really just need some time to get things going here. Sure, so we'll take 4. We're not going to have well, we would have a positive challenge onto the Vagabond next turn, but I think this still looks pretty strong. Siphoning Strike, maybe next turn. Yeah, I'm looking at just playing the Hexplosive Minefield plus the Naturalist, but that's not. It doesn't feel too premier. What if we play the Bomber Twins and the Waste Walker? It's kind of tough for them to have a big unit. If this was turn 6, it would be pretty easy for them to have Armored Elephant, but being only turn 5, it's a very realistic chance he only plays like a 3 health unit here.
Are you ready? Let's take it for a spin.
Unfortunate. I guess it could be worse. I mean, we trade our 2 mana for his 5. He can't add anything to the board now. We could technically play this Emperor's Diaz if we want, but maybe that's where we're at. Gives us a decent target for the Desert Naturalist if we don't want to use the Minefield right away.
Villains beware.
Okay. Let's just get on board. It's always like scary against action if you're going to be out here trying to play Siphoning Strikes because they just tend to have so many combat tricks in their deck. I think I'm okay with... oh, is he just really going for a spell flip? Or is this another... Oh, okay. Sure.
Justice will fall. Rev that baby up and let's see what it can really do.
Don't worry, boss. It goes to
Alright, well we can chunk in a bunch of damage this turn. I think I like this. Looking at the Minefield, the Naturalist, and then a big attack. Draw 2, okay.
Cool eye patch.
Cool eye patch.
and fight. Hey, I am feeling great.
That'll give us the old Ziggs flip as well.
I'll drag you out of there if I have to.
I just can't wait.
So yeah, we have a big swing in power now. We can do bunches and bunches of damage this turn. If he has an answer to Ziggs, I don't know, say plays a Vakiran like Bruiser here, then we're still getting in a ton.
Think I see something.
Right? If he's going to say either block the 5/4 or block Ziggs and play a trick, he's taking 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 plus the other unit's damage. No, it's not unreasonable to think that we can just be like wider than him next turn and chunk in for the damage. This is a pretty tempting Preservarium. It's just like it's gonna cycle for the damage in the turn where we're trying to kill. And so it's like if we want to block this turn, we can still fill out our board, I think. I think this is fine. Inner Sanctum.
We three will have blood.
This is not impossible to get out of, right? The Absolver would be the annoying one, but he's gonna have to have like 2 spells otherwise. The 2 spells otherwise. Sure. So that's gonna take down our Ziggs. The rest of this is fairly ignorable.
Take everything.
I'll try to trade with the Vagabond. We need to. If we just skip here, we can just go to 3. Okay. Takes away his opportunity to play cards if we do it like that. So we die to like a Noxus Blast, right? But that's kind of tough to have. That would be the only burn spell that we're actively worried about out here. Oof. And again, non-zero chance that we can get wider than him. Decent chance that we can pick up some overwhelm stuff as well.
Sun's beneath me and winds behind me.
I'm looking to overwrite the obelisk. I'm not, like, maybe he just doesn't have units in hand. That could definitely be a thing.
Our faith, our future in one symbol.
But now we're getting in for like a minimum of 4. It's like, how much do we want to worry about like a whirling death? That would be the kind of problematic thing now, is if we go all in on the Bomber Twins and then he has a whirling death. Like it's not super easy to hit both Overwhelm and Spell Shield, which is what we're needing. So if we're also, let's just say, we're going to give up on winning the game this turn, right? We're looking kind of far away from it. Then let's maybe try and combat trick his units down. So let's see if we can't pick up some challengers or what we can hit here. The Spell Shield. Don't think I'm super interested in Spell Shield at the moment. And Challenger.
I go!
Okay. Ancient Hourglass. Sure. So he'll get to draw a card next turn. It's not horrible unless he gets to draw 2 cards off of the Warlord's Horde as well. But we're about to draw a bunch of cards, so hopefully we can get ahead. Fucking Zerath. Ew. Is he flipped? Not yet. Not yet. Okay. Okay. So Ziad, he needs 1 target. Well, the action hit will get the Warlord's Horde to flip. We'll have to watch that in combat. We can technically Ancient Hourglass away from the combat. Oh, he can just open kill us, can't he? Boomerang Blade. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Alright. I don't think we're gonna survive this one. Alright. It's gonna take forever. We'll just give up on that one. It's okay. Alright. Let's get ourselves a trade. So let's see. Rockhopper for Hothead. That looks pretty good. Again, I've been pretty disappointed in these Hotheads. That we don't have the means to have them survive a combat. And then the Rockhopper, again, just a really key unit. We're hurting for these early plays. This Rockhopper into Wastewalker is incredibly powerful. Super happy to pick that one up. Right on theme. Right. The trial continues. Yeah, that was kind of tough. You can run into those spaces against the action decks to where they just don't have anything in hand but combat tricks. And that's what we were kind of leaning towards there. At the end of the day, we got ourselves in that space to where he needed like a bunch of stuff and he had it. And so it's fairly, apparent when they need to be adding units to the board and they aren't, that they're going to have something. But I think if we'd been able to pull off that Siphoning Strike on the turn he had double Shapestone, then we probably would have won that game. That's probably the critical turn, though. Could have waited a little bit longer and tried for a better one or something, but that's tough space. Tough space with how quickly that action came out and flipped and had everything going. There was also that turn a little bit earlier where we decided to take some damage and trade away the Ziggs as opposed to saving the Ziggs for the value attack on the following turn. Could have repositioned that one a little bit as well. But here, very similarly to a few games ago, I'm not super interested in what 3-drop we have as long as we have one, but I am pretty interested in having a 1 or a 2, and so we're going to go ahead and just dig. Didn't come across one, but that's okay. We're back to that always sucks. We're back to this this angle to where we can Unraveled Earth into Wastewalker. Ideally, we wouldn't have taken 5 there, but kind of is what it is. Let's see here, up against Sivir Riven. I'm not exactly sure what we're supposed to be worried about here, but
And I thought there was something good to see.
let's see what we can get out of this.
I'll drag you out of
We're gonna have to trade a good unit for the Glory Seeker, but that's not until next turn. This is the kind of Wastewalker space I'm talking about, right? He's got to play a unit. It's tough to play a unit that is fuck. It's tough to play a unit that can survive a Wastewalker hit, and then if he doesn't, he just has to get reamed and damage. It's a okay-ish siphoning strike. It sucks to lose the unit. It's like if he immediately drops the Sivir, then we're like really hosed. Riven's right in the same boat, but we do have the mana to potentially mess with her, although I assume he's going to hook the Wastewalker with the Glory Seeker. So with that in mind, let's just play the Endless Devout. That's going to be our best unit to just throw in front of Riven.
To serve the greater good.
Sure.
I'll cut them apart. Face me.
Okay. So let's see if we got the... It feels like we're just gonna run into a weapon hilt here, but it's so choice if this actually works with the Shapestone. He just got too many cards for there not to be a... Oh my goodness. What do I know? Felt like he had too many cards for there to be no combat trick. Sivir shows up. I was leaning towards, like, how do we just take this Riven down? So let's do it like this. Let's play the Rockhopper. I was initially saying, like, okay, well, let's Rite of the Arcane off the Sarcophagus onto the Riven. But now they just, like, they could have, like, a 3-mana combat trick, right? They could have a Sharpened Resolve, but they definitely don't have a cheap one. But either way, I feel like we should be pretty safe in quick attack challenging down Riven with Sivir. And so if that's going to be the angle, let's get some more landmarks down and get some of this stuff going. Maybe grow the Wastewalker a little bit, and still have a pretty safe line. Okay.
Only the finest serve.
To draw a card. Interesting.
I know what I'm worth.
Sivir's at 16. Getting close to flipping, but not quite there.
Watch me.
Think I see something.
So how we want to do it? Do we ever actually want to attack with the Wastewalker just to chunk through this overwhelm damage? So we would be getting in an extra 5 damage this turn? I think I like it.
Danger pays. Approach, savage.
Flips our Sivir as well. So we can now try to take advantage of this flipped Sivir. We're not going to have like a big board, but we should have a Sarcophagus to assist with the lethal on the following turn. And so we can look to we can look to use the payday generator and give Sivir overwhelm and protect our team, or boom our team. Spirit Fire, okay.
All that glitter
Dude's got a Sivir.
mine.
Do we want to pivot? Does that ever happen? Like I think we have to be ready to block her. We can just block her with the naturalist though. But it's just like if we play the Sandseer, we give up on playing the Inner Sanctum. And I think we're gonna need the Inner Sanctum. Alright, let's see what happens. I mean, we are at a pretty healthy life total. Let's take us to 8. We just have to worry about a rally. Don't have to worry about a rally. Well, I guess he could be like Uri's a Shunpo, but he's not going to have any board if that's what happens. Alright, I think we're fine. We can still just add Bomber Twins now. It's not like he's going to be dropping like Boomerang Blades when he just has this little bit of mana.
I write the rules of power.
Okay, we're good.
Are you ready? Let's take it for a spin.
Alright, what you got for us, Sivir? Overwhelm. Missed it. We'll go with the Challenger. Try and take his Sivir down, at least if we're not going to get the win outright. Overwhelm. There we go.
Yeah, why not?
Danger pays.
Then, if we need to, we still have access to this Spirit Fire, so we can shrink up. Or no, that won't shrink up till after combat. But this should do it. Egg 2. Gonna need some combat tricks. Sharpened Resolve, okay. That takes him to 0. Oh, takes him to neg 2. I guess she wasn't dealing any damage anyways. Cool. The trial is not over. The pre-final battle is imminent. So what do we got here? Don't want the Obelisk, don't want the Spirit Fire. I would be okay with a Rampaging Bakai, but not for a Shaped Stone. Then none of these cards are bad enough to want to trade away, so we'll just skip on this one. All right. Oof. Big day at the gym this morning. Got to get a nice post-gym stretch in. Feeling good. Feeling good. What's this? Yumi, Lulu, and Yasuo. Okay. It's like I'm pretty tempted to hang on to the Unraveled Earth, but I think we'll just get rid of everything and look for a cheap play. Found one. We got that Rockhopper combo. Cool.
If it's made of sand,
All right. Let's see if it plays out. Oh, Loping Telescope. That wasn't part of the plan. We can at least pivot into playing Ziggs now, right? He's played as 1 health unit. We can Ziggs it and still have a pretty safe Rockhopper. The F and telescopes, am I right? I'm curious what happens. The video is being made early in the morning, and so the patch notes haven't come out yet. But I'm curious what happens in today's patch and what we're going to be seeing in the upcoming days. I'm not entirely sure what kind of content I'm going to be creating over the next couple of days. I have kind of like grown fond of doing a video or two of Constructed and then doing the Gauntlet. I really like getting in the Gauntlet every week, but it might be worthwhile for the next one for me to kind of wait later into the day and maybe tool around on the ladder a little bit once we see what the changes are. But you know, you never know what they're actually going to present to us, and so I don't want to get too hype about it, and then and then there not be any like relevant changes. I suspect this is going to be kind of a bigger patch, but I'm mainly interested in seeing what they do in terms of. I think it's kind of interesting, you know, going back and revisiting the older cards and the older champions and seeing what can be done with them and what new additions can be made. And I'm just curious where they're going to take, you know, say like a Katarina. What are they ever going to do with a Katarina? And so here, to get back to the game, this is a little awkward. This is like one of these too many things on the board. I would love to naturalist off the sarcophagus, but I had in my head that we were going to Roiling Sands plus Wastewalker. Makes it a little bit awkward here.
Keep your head down, okay?
Hmm.
Watch me.
All right, let's protect our Ziggs here. We're having like a threatened lethal on the Saga Seeker. I don't think we ever win against the Saga Seeker here. It's like he either just takes the damage or he blocks and has a trick, right? He just never blocks and trades in this situation. But I think I'm okay with him spending his mana on tricks here. So it seems like he's fairly limited in the world of combat tricks, so we might be able to sneak in a lethal next turn. I'd feel better about it if we had one of these 5-attack units already on board, but let's see. Close as Ziggs to flipping. He needs 2. Not particularly close. He'll flip off of the sarcophagus and the Roiling Sands, but we don't have any follow-up damage. Okay, so do we want to add the big boy, right? We can drop Safety Inspector, get him going, or do we want to go with the Naturalist? I'm leaning towards the big boy here. This still leaves us in the space next turn to where we might be able to send the ability to face, and then let's say he just has like a 5-drop here. Say his only unit to add to the board is a Yasuo. Hey, it's Yasuo, and we get like a good hook into Yasuo, and we can chunk in some damage. Like, that's sad. I guess it's good to see that happen. Oh, Yasuo gets him now. I guess it's good to see it happen before we get too far involved in this next attack, but let's see. Let's start with the Preservarium, right? I want to get the Preservarium down. I want to get Ziggs down. And I was going to use the idea that we're just going to blow up the Preservarium post-combat and deal 5 to face between Ziggs and the Inspection Past, but there's a pretty good chance that we're just not going to have any landmarks on board. I think this is okay.
Little boom and one really big one.
There's a very real chance he doesn't get to add any units to the board here. Take like 5 from the Devout, 6, 7 from Ziggs, and then the lethal with the Inspection Past plus Ziggs. We should probably do this pre-combat though, right? I don't want our Ziggs to get in combat, get killed by the Saga Seeker, and then miss out on these points of damage. It kind of sucks that we have to advertise that we're about to throw this stuff to face, but I think this is okay. We might end up seeing like a Will of Ionia here. Homecoming is actually fine. Will of Ionia would be the problematic one if he sends Ziggs, or he may be more likely to send like Wastewalker back at this point, but hush. Okay.
And it goes boom.
And it goes boom.
Light the fuse.
do it like this. We'll send the Yasuo down to the far side away. Now, he's going to have to put his Saga Seeker in front of the Waste Walker. Oh, that's not going to do it. He's got to overwhelm my dude. that's not going to do it. And then if he doesn't, if he's just going to take the Safety Inspector, we can kill with the Shapestone out of hand. And then our other option for going into the next turn is to Ancient Hourglass one of our units and then do the Ziggs damage once the turn starts. But we should be lethal now with the Waste Walker. I think we're making it to the final battle. We're doing it with Ziggs and Co. Alright, alright. How do you like them booms? Just like them apples, my dude. Just like the apples. So, what do we got here? We can trade out Bouncing Bomb for Waste Walker. That sounds good. Don't want a Preservationist. I like the Voice of the Risen more than the Bakai. So that's a fairly easy swap for me. I like having the one Spirit Fire, so I think that can stay. I'm not opposed to trading out the Hierophant for the Shapestone. It's like kind of off theme. The thing that we're like really looking for out of the Esteemed Hierophant is having a bunch of like hooks. And we don't have like Ruthless Predators, we don't have Exhausts, and then when it comes to saying like with Rockhopper, we're still like pretty okay. We have 4 Waste Walkers, right? And so I think this is okay to trade out the Hierophant for the very good combat trick. Here, I think I want to skip all these. I kind of like having the one Hexplosive Minefield. You do run into some games like where you're playing against Pantheon or whatever, like that guy playing Yuumi, to where you just get huge shutdowns with the Hexplosive Minefields. We've also talked about some of those turns to where you get a double stun on an attacking turn. It's nice to have that interactivity. So I'm going to hang on to it. Don't want the Rock Bear. Like the Voice of the Risen. On to the next one. Want the Strike. I want to keep all of these. That's a fairly easy skip. Here, Risen Altar is pretty tempting to pick up, right? We don't have too much top end in this deck. It's just Safety Inspector, and then if you want to call Sandseer top end. And so I do like the Risen Altar. It does suck to trade away a Waste Walker for it, though. I think that's where we're going to be. And it's... having the big like Spell Shield Overwhelm is so strong, but we don't have the countdown stuff. We just have the destroy stuff. So there is a real chance that this doesn't get to activate. Man, if we could trade like Clockwork Curator or one of these kind of mediocre cards, I would do it. I don't think we can trade out our Waste Walkers, though. So I'm going to skip that one. Don't want the Hourglass. Want to hang on to the right. Don't want to trade the Unraveled Earth. Okay. All right. Final battle it is. Interesting. Yuumi, Vi, and Pantheon playing the Bandle City Targon PNZ trifecta. Sure. Here, I'm going to hang on to a Waste Walker and then see if we can't find a landmark generator. This is kind of our premier 3 outside of Ziggs. I could see the argument like to just hard mulligan for the 2-drops like we've been doing, but I think this is our strongest one. And then if we hit a 2, we look like geniuses. Just like that. Learn from the pros. Okay, we have a Shapestone to combat a Pale Cascade, so I think this is fine. It's tough. Like PNZ is not a particularly appealing faction to pair off with these faded self-targeting kind of decks. So interesting to see what plays out here.
I'm ready to play, fight, and knock over some cups.
That's problematic. This is kind of like the classic spot you run into against the Go Tall decks, and do I try to fight this unit, or do I just want to get wider than it? And I think we're just going to have to try and get wider. This is a really painful turn to where we can't add too much to the board, though. We could look to add like an Endless Devout, since it can attack fairly safely, but it's like I'm a little bit more interested in just adding the Salt Spire and then trying to end the game on our next attack. But it's kind of a challenging proposition to do from 15. I think this is going to come down to mainly if he has a Zenith Blade, which should be tough to do. He's playing 3 factions. So this is tough. This is tough. We can also perhaps just add Waste Walker. Maybe this is where I stand. Makes it really awkward for him if he adds a unit to the board. And then we'll have to just stop and decide if we want to pass. I think I'm good with that. Like, it's not, like, entirely unappealing for opponent here. Like, he just overbanks 1 mana in a deck that has a ton of combat tricks. But I think this is okay. Like, as long as we aren't running into Zenith Blades.
I will run you over. Oh dear.
And it's like, where do we get our removal spell? The 2 mana thing, the Rockfall Path to throw onto the Saga Seeker. Is he just never going to play a unit? that's what this is starting to look like. There's one. Hi.
Are you ready? Let's take it for a spin.
Diaz, these nuts, as I like to call it. And Ziggs, interesting. I think I'm ready to just attack. I'm gonna do it like this. This lets us... He can put his Saga Seeker in front of our 6/4. That could be a little scary for him. We know that we don't have any tricks, but he doesn't know that. It should be like safe enough for him. But again, he's like playing P and Z. That should really cut into the amount of combat tricks he has. And things like Pale Cascade don't get through this. Okay, Hush is fine. Hush gets through everything. But I think this is all well and good. So I want to get the Salt Spire down this turn so that when it comes to our next attack token, this Dum-Dum will be coming onto the board. And then we probably need to go ahead and just get the Star-Tipped Peak down. It'll blow up on the same turn. We might be able to get a Ziggs damage in. It's going to be kind of tough, but... This is the worrisome thing now, the Sparklefly. We just do not have answers to that. Yumi flipping like a boss. Found our Yordle book. Okay.
Rev that baby up and let's see what it can really do.
Don't worry, Bob.
So that may have been, kind of an excessive landmark thing, if you will, given that we're, ultimately pretty worried about this Sparklefly. We could have saved the Ancient Hourglass for the Sparklefly to prevent the lifesteal block from happening, but I think this is fine. This is going to be our chance we're going to do 2 damage with Ziggs. We're going to get on the board with the rest of this stuff. We'll get to see what happens with the Star-Tipped Peak. I think this is about as good as we could hope for. Did we do 8 damage on this Ziggs flip? I don't think that's the way it works, but that'll be fucking choice if these all popped off right now. Ooh, Crescent Strike. And the Hexplosive Minefield? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Where does this get us? So, I'm worried that we're not going to have enough to pull this off. Let's drop the Endless Devout. It depends on his, units, right? but the Hexplosive Minefield will pop the Saga Seeker. That's going to be his strongest one, like, every time. Man, having 3 stuns is so huge. And this isn't a circle ability, right? So this will go through the spell shield. This, I don't know a better way to explain circle abilities. Is like, if you look at Ziggs, Short Fuse is a circle ability, right? A skill, this puts the little circle on the board. The Hexplosive Minefield doesn't do that, so there's nothing for the spell shield to counter. Alright, another lifesteal unit to get stunned. This is gonna be lame, I can already tell. Ah, he's got a Crescent Strike. Fuck. So where do we land now? So we can play everything, right? We can get the Diaz on board. We can get the Wastewalker on board because we have the Moonsilver. We shut down the Fangs. We shut down the Sparklefly. The Assembly Bot blocks a 3, right? So if it blocks the Bomber Twins, we're getting in for 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then the Diaz. All right, let's add the Wastewalker first. If opponent plays a unit here, this doesn't work. If opponent passes back to us, then I'm just going to go all in. Okay. Did we do it? Did we get their squad? My Crescent Strike is premium. I don't know if you noticed the superior qualities and skills and levels of ours. It's the premium factor that's out here really getting it for us. Alright. He didn't add any more units. You can have like Mystic Shots or something shitty like that, but you need like a Mystic Shot or a Stress Defense. There's not too much else that would get him out of this. You can have a Pokey Stick, but we might have... Hush. Okay. That's fair. So we take him to 2. We find a landmark destruction we can end, and he doesn't appear to have Overwhelm yet, so... Hush. Okay. Unraveled Earth, that could be a way. That could be a way. At least stops him from playing units the rest of the game. Till he gets to attack with the Sparklefly, I guess. Alright, boys, squeeze them butt cheeks. Vi. Ugh. That timing was pretty choice. But play unit. Play unit, dude. No attacks, play unit. Ah, we're gonna lose our Ziggs? Ah, this game's dumb. This game is dumb.
Fuse is burning.
Okay. Alright, well. We're probably done for. We could pick up some draws here, but I still feel pretty good about that going all in on the previous turn. It's pretty tough for them to get out of that. He did have a handful of cards, but I don't feel like we lost out on a ton.
This'll be a blast.
I don't know. Maybe, dude. What else do you get to say? What else do you say, Ziggs? I don't know, dude. Maybe. Maybe we draw something. Play some units. I don't think we have any draws here. Oh, sure. Why not? Why not Vandal City? Okay. Okay. Well, that was close. That was a good game. It's tough, right? That's we talk about that matchup a lot in constructed and our best of three strategy, and we just ban it every time. That's our best of three strategy is to ban the Pantheon Yuumi deck or Pantheon Taric or whatever the fuck they're playing, because in constructed the problem that you run into is it's not that the go tall strategy is unbeatable, right? You can certainly beat the Pantheon deck. You can load up on vengeances and stuns and hushes and mini morphs and all of that, and you can just set out to just annihilate Pantheon and be successful. The problem with doing that is there aren't enough go tall decks in the format that are good to really warrant it. And so if this was a format to where there's tons of Yuumi Pantheon, there's tons of, say, like Zoe Lee Sin, there's tons of Fiora Shen, like all of these archetypes that are really centered on going big on one unit, then you can meta your deck around it and target that and look to deal with it. But since there's only the one archetype in constructed, we just ban it and don't worry about it, and that's just kind of the cornerstone of what we're trying to do. And as kind of like you run into this in Expedition, it is a little unfortunate to have these like ultra polarizing matchups, as to where this was kind of Riot's problem with Fiora Shen being so good. It's not that the deck has like that 55% win rate magic that makes them consider making nerfs. It's that the matchups are a bunch of like 80-20s and 90-10s and 75-25s. And it just feels like a coin flip as to what you're playing against, right? So you're like, oh, I'm playing Fiora Shen. This is a good match. I'm going to smash the shit out of you the majority of the time. And it's like, oh, I'm playing Fiora Shen. I'm against the guy playing Vengeance Minimorph. I'm just going to get annihilated every time. There's not a ton of back and forth, and it has like, a lot of feels bad moments in terms of, I'm queuing up into the ladder and it's like, oh, I'll win and I'm not actually playing the game, or oh, I'll lose, I'm not actually playing the game. And that's the only what I see to be like the downside to having like the Yuumi Pantheon and the Fated decks running around in Expedition as well, is it's just like so super faction dependent. And so if we look at Shurima, what are Shurima's ways to deal with a big tall unit? Right, nothing. And then what are, in our case here, Vandal City's way to deal with it? You got mini morph and you got stuns, and we saw 0 throughout the draft. And now, I'm not like ultimately complaining about that. I think that some factions have to have strengths and some have to have weaknesses, and that's a lot of what we're seeing to be the Vandal City problem these days, is that they cover all of the areas, right? They have removal that's cheap. They have removal that gets anything. They have good small units. They have good large units. They have good cheap champions. They have good expensive champions. They have all of the card generation to just deal with everything otherwise. But in my opinion, it's just not priced appropriately. And so it's okay that Vandal City can generate everything, but Conchologist should be more expensive, or he should have worse stats or something along the lines to make it not as strong 100% of the time. And where that, you get some of that kind of like back and forth, and Shurima can't deal with this stuff, and Noxus only has like combat strikes, and Shadow Isles has the good removal. I think this is all fantastic and good, but you do run into some polarizing matchups like this one that can be a bit of a struggle. And so at least that one was fun. We had a lot of play and a lot of back and forth on that one, and we had some good decisions to make on whether or not to attack or to go after the Fated unit. You can't go after the Fated unit once Yumi's put on it, but I think we made the right decision there in going for the width and had a pretty decent strategy. We could have sequenced a little bit differently to where with the Salt Spire and how we set that up, but at the end of the day, I thought we had a good match there. I'm glad we found a way to potentially punch through a lethal that the opponent has 3 cards and 3 mana in hand, and it's very realistic that they might have like a Yumi and an expensive card and a unit that they can't play, and so I thought we set ourselves up well to be able to win that game, but we're just a little bit short in the end, and so fun match at the end of the day. But yeah, so in terms of this deck, I thought we were pretty close to getting what we were looking for. It was actually kind of odd how that draft played out. Now that is a function of the draft playing out and us taking Shurima, right? And so if we talked extensively about the strength of the Landmark Destruction Bandle City cards, where you have the good 1-drop in Inventive Chemist, the good 2-drop in Bomber Twins, you have the good 3-drop in the 4/2 Quick Attacker. And we didn't see any of the 1-drop or any of the 3-drop throughout the draft. Now, a function of that is us jumping into Shurima, and so whenever the Landmark Destruction archetype turns up, it's not always guaranteed to be Bandle City only. But I think we still, picked up on the good Landmark Destruction kind of capabilities, right? We're able to successfully call out the strength of Rockhopper and Roiling Sands plus Wastewalker. We're able to call out taking advantage of the dude that generates sarcophaguses. We went out of our way to pick up removal whenever it turned up. We tried to take the expensive game enders where we could. I think we did a very good job of recognizing what the archetype is good at, what it's bad at, where to fill in, and what to take and what not to. I think we did a pretty good job with that draft, and so hopefully you're able to translate some of that into your successes as well. And so to kind of recap what we're talking about there, the Ziggs archetype itself, really good early game, no interactivity, no late game. So if you're pairing it off with another aggressive strategy, you need some interactivity, and you need some late game overwhelmers to end the game. Otherwise, if you're able to pair into Shurima and go for the full Landmark Destruction strategy, I recommend you stay away from the Rock Bears, you stay away from anything that says Countdown. Those are just kind of gotcha strategies that are just way too high rolly, not what I like to do. I like the units that generate landmarks. That's your Inventive Chemists and Rockhoppers of the worlds, your Bomber Twins of the worlds. I like the spells that generate units like your Roiling Sands. I like your landmarks that replace themselves like Preservarium. And then once you have all of that kind of lined up, it shouldn't be too challenging to get your Ziggs to flip or to activate your Wastewalkers or what have you in terms of hitting that 4 destroyed landmark kind of thing. It's just at the end of the day, if you're playing a bunch of Obelisk of the Unseens and a bunch of Hexplosive Minefields, they come down and do their little bit of stuff, but it's not enough to carry you through the rest of the game. And so you're really just looking to pick those up incidentally, or in the case of the Obelisk, not at all, and then really focus on those value generating type landmarks. Otherwise, you got to take the removal when you see it. It's few and far between. And in terms of your late game cards, you're looking for stuff, as we always say, that can just damage the opponent. So things with elusive doesn't really exist, but you might find the arsenal. You want things with overwhelm, like Ruin Runners, or you want things that can do damage directly to your opponent, whether or not that is something like Safety Officer that has the explosions, or just another unit that can get the damages in. And then, of course, the last thing we tried to call out, we didn't get the Absolvers, we didn't get the Magus that gives the +2/+2. We saw it, but didn't take it. Those can be quite powerful with Ziggs. As he attacks, throws his bouncing bomb down, opponent blocks with a 1/1. The bomb does 2 to face, but he doesn't deal his 4 damage. If you play the Absolver on him, then he's able to overwhelm for 6 or 8 and then close out those games. Quite a powerful thing. But that is going to do it for us today. Looks like we have a reward to claim, so we'll see what we get from our 7 winner earlier. This was a freebie, and so I'm glad opponent got to snatch victory from us, so they get their 7 winner as well. And that is going to do it for us today. And so I hope everyone enjoyed the trial. You learned how to bounce the bombs a little bit better. You maybe learned a thing or two along the way and had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.